Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
The name's the dog, Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints.
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks. We're two geeking out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, it's the second half of the Sistine Chapel. Frank, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you? I'm Groot.
I'm Groot. Good. I am Groot as well. Thank you for asking. Frank,
I love you guys.
What are you drinking today?
Too much. No, I'm drinking a Sam Adams. This is one I haven't had before. This is, I think, new to this year's seasonal variety pack. It is their Take-A-Day IPA.
How is it?
It's a nice, light, sessionable IPA with a little bit of orange, tropical hop aroma, and just the right bitterness.
Very, very nice. Frank, I'm going to let you in on a big deal. Are you ready?
What's the big deal?
That's in my fridge. I have beer again.
All right. Woo!
Thank you. Woo!
Celebration.
Yeah. I also got the Sam Adams seasonal pack because you sold me on the Summer Adventure Lager. And I said I had to try it. And so I actually did get it, the pineapple and lime, sessionable and crisp. And it is so good.
Isn't it so good? Yeah, I just had the last one of those, and I'm like, oh, I hope that starts to come in six-packs during the summer.
Oh, yeah, it's so refreshing. I've already had a Porch Rocker. Good batch this year. Very excited.
It is a good batch.
Yeah, it is very excited about their Porch Rocker this year. And I've had Summer Adventure. I have not done the IPA, at the Take-A-Day IPA, because as you know, IPAs are not my favorite. But
yes, the
Summer IPA is a much more tolerable IPA for me because it's light.
Yes.
Or should
This
be.
is the kind of IPA that you can play cornhole and have a couple.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, there's something about summer and cornhole.
Right?
Yeah, it's good stuff. Can't wait. We're so close. Speaking of summertime, it's summer blockbuster movie time.
Sure
Kicking
is.
off the season with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the wrap-up to the Guardians trilogy, but they've appeared more times, so I don't really know what to call it. Yes, it's Guardians trilogy with extra appearances elsewhere.
It's true.
And so let's stay spoiler-free for a minute or two, and then we'll just go deep into spoilers. But Frank, how did you feel about this outing for the Guardians?
This was a good Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It was a solid movie. It was a very sad movie at a lot of points, but it was a very good movie. It was not necessarily what I come to a Guardians of the Galaxy movie for all of the time, in that I think I usually think of the Guardians movies as being a little more lighthearted and a little funnier. This was not really, it had a lot more of the feels and a lot more of the, and some of it was sad. But I would say if I give Guardians number 1 an A and I give Guardians Volume 2 maybe a B or B+, this is more like a C.
Interesting.
For me.
Okay. So fascinating. As you know, I find the first Guardians of the movie good. I give it a B+, maybe. And then I find in the second movie, the Volume 2, is near the bottom of the barrel for the MCU for me. It is definitely in the C- D+-ish range. I find it almost a complete and total rehash thematically of the first movie, and just with dad issues capped on top. And the Christmas special is in fact the lowest.
Yeah.
point in the MCU.
But it
for
has
me.
Kevin Bacon, so
It does, and he's doing his thing. But this movie is in my top 5 in the MCU now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I keep hearing this.
Yeah,
I keep hearing this.
I found it so well crafted in story and character, that in the way that the other 2 movies weren't. Like the first movie almost feels like an improv show where they're like just kind of like they're figuring it out, and like if we rehearsed this, then it wouldn't be improv anymore. So,
right.
But it like needs to be a little sketchy that way. And the second one feels glossed over in a way that's like isn't special. And then I won't count the Christmas special and all of this, but and then so this one felt like a deserving end to characters that maybe don't deserve our interest but have earned it.
Yeah, they have earned it. Yeah,
yeah, and I think that's what I found so intriguing about this one. Like it just kind of went for the bonkers ideas that are not even like in the MCU. They're just like the bonkers ideas of James Gunn, and that is what I found more interesting, even just thematically and metaphorically, what intertextuality, like what it's playing with, in terms of religion and where it's larger biblical themes and figures and stuff. And I just liked all of that much more than anything the other Guardians movies have done.
I agree with like it had all of those things, and I agree with you. Those are all like it was great for all of those reasons. Like those are all the things that I liked about it.
Sure.
Like it was totally beautifully crafted, and had like the themes that it touched on were so far beyond like what any of the previous 2 movies touched on, or any of their appearances, honestly. Like look at Infinity War, Endgame, Thor, like, and any of those appearances, they didn't ever really verge on any of those things. The way that he used Rocket's backstory to propel the current events in the movie was really, really beautifully like crafted and beautifully put together. The way that the movie held together.
Yeah, I agree. So let's go spoilers here from now on, because it's hard to talk about.
There's
this movie.
not much else we can say without spoiling a bunch of stuff.
No,
but before we go spoilers, I will say, this is I would say this is a true PG-13. Like if your kids are under like 12 or 13, give this one a screening before you decide to bring them. It's like a sensitivity depending on the kid type of thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a couple of grotesque things that I think a younger kid might have a harder time with, maybe. But so let's talk spoilers. This is Rocket's movie for sure.
It totally is Rocket's movie. Yeah,
which I found the structure of it interesting, because he's actually knocked out like for most of it, like, or at least for half of it. It's a lot of his scenes have to do with his past, and which I loved, truthfully. I think the other Guardians movies have a lot of heart, but because they say they have heart, and this movie has heart because of what it's doing and the story that it's telling. And I think those are quite different things.
Yes.
And so with it being kind of Rocket's movie, where I said like I basically watched a movie where the main protagonist in this movie is a CGI actual raccoon. Praise.
Yes.
And
now we can officially say that
Rocket Raccoon, which is wonderful. And I liked it because like it did the things that, like, you got people to like a raccoon in a tree, in the first one, and the second one didn't do anything special like that. I think
it's true.
And then this one kind of it dove into the weirdness more. Like, here's the space station made entirely of organic matter. Like, that's an interesting idea to me. That's visually interesting what they're doing with it. It could have been maybe more interesting. Like once they get inside, it's like regular almost.
Sure.
But it doesn't matter. Like it's still kind of bonkers where nowhere is a giant pirate spaceship basically. And
Totally.
and the cannon comes out of the eye and like that's all like it's just pirates in space, more than like you expect them to be like wearing triangle hats at that point,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that's kind of what I liked about it from kind of the bonkers Guardians level.
Yeah. It took us to a lot of places, actually. Like when I think about all of the different settings that we saw in this movie, it actually did go to a lot of places, which I guess is typical for the Guardians films. But now, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, we really did cover a lot of ground. Went to a lot of different physical places, different settings. What did you think about in terms of pacing and length?
The length didn't really bother me. I thought that it was going to be a little too long, but for me, I don't feel like I feel like every moment was in service of a character instead of just a progression of the story. So even like maybe action sequences, like which would get you to a point, was actually about character. So like,
it's true.
Like Nebula, Drax, and Mantis, like jumping on top of the high evolutionary ship. And then, going in there like, we're here to rescue you. Well, I'm not there. I'm over here, like pretty typical. But like, instead of just going, we have to find a way off this, it becomes a moment about like, this is how I actually feel about you, Drax, and how you respond to that. And then like the messy relationship that Drax and Mantis have. Like, she like wipes his mind. Like, how much has she done that to spare his feelings? It was really interesting. Like that type of stuff I found is what made the length tolerable, because every time it felt like it could just like, oh, here's an action sequence for action sequence's sake. It had a larger purpose for the characters.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the way that they Gamora and Peter, Gamora and her sister, like the way that we saw those relationships actually like relationship moments happening during action sequences was kind of a recurring theme throughout the movie.
That's right. And I think like the tone of the movie itself to me almost felt like a Dungeons and Dragons adventure you play with your friends, where it's just like things like don't. I mean, this is always the Guardians thing, where like, and even the first one where like Rocket's talking to Star-Lord and Gamora about like escaping the prison and Groot's in the back, like just like thinking like we can't pull that thing until the very last second. That's totally a thing where someone would go over like, and I pulled the thing off the wall, like that's the. But I'm reminded of like that to me, like when they're in the organic space station, like they put the suits in the chest, and that's actually they go into the vacuum of space. Like that's totally something. Like it feels like they're playing a game with friends, even though they're characters. Like it's like this really nice layered existence. Like,
yeah. What was your exposure to like Adam Warlock before this?
Reading parts of Infinity War, basically.
Yep.
Infinity War, right? Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah,
Infinity Gauntlet.
Right. Yeah, the Gauntlet. Yeah. That's basically it. Like he's cropped up in a few other things that I've read, but he wasn't what I was expecting. No. I did see a little thing with James Gunn where he said he did feel hand-tied to introduce Adam because he definitely feels tacked on. It kind of reminded me of Venom in Spider-Man 3, but like I don't have an emotional connection to Adam, so I don't really care what you do with him. But I was even surprised to see Elizabeth Debicki back. I was like, "Oh, you're in a movie. Yeah. You're in this movie." I thought, "Oh, okay, fun,
cool."
Yeah, so I did actually like what they did with them instead of just being like, these people are gold, and they have. I actually really liked their connection to the High Evolutionary because they almost now have a larger purpose in the Guardian story because of it. And in some ways, I like, Adam's story is a story of redemption in of itself, right? He's Adam, because obviously Adam Warlock is like, he's the first, right? And he's born and he's the maid, but he like is doing bad things, but then he like redeems like Adam in the tree. Like this is part of the like intertextuality with the Bible that we're talking about, right? So like that part I enjoyed, and even like his inclusion in the New Guardians team at the end makes sense to me, though. Like, but truthfully, I feel like the movie could have worked just as fine without them. Sure. Yes. Agreed. Yeah. But I'm not like upset they were there. It just feels a little like you're here because they had to be, because you introduced, like you said he was coming, basically. Right. And now you got a better idea, but you had an old one. So now you have to do this. Right. You had to marry the two things in some way. Yeah. So it's not, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. I don't have any attachment to him. I think reading Infinity Gauntlet was the only exposure I had to the character too. So, but I had actually forgotten that he was coming. So, because I feel like it was so long ago. Gosh, when was that? But it was so long ago that I had forgotten he was coming, and I was like, oh, that's right. Yeah. He was cast. Again, I have been watching very little in the way of trailers. That started out as a choice. Now it's just I have a kid, and sure, I don't have time to watch the internet. Yeah. It was a choice at one point. Yep. Yeah. Now, if you want to watch it, too bad. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I like Will Poulter too, so like I do like him. Yeah. That's fine. I'll watch more of him, or I won't. That's kind of how I felt. Little impact. I did, however, love the High Evolutionary. I felt that was a villain worthy of like me watching. Yeah, that was the best villain of recent films. Certainly one of them. Definitely the best Guardians villain so far. Recent films, there's this thing about villains taking children. I don't know if you like, between Gore and the High Evolutionary, and I feel like there's one more in there. Black Widow, maybe if I go that far back. So there's definitely, I feel like there's one more in there. But Scarlet Witch, Kids, yeah, I guess. Yeah, actually, yeah. All right. So, yeah, it's like a running theme right now, I guess. But oh man, what was I about to say? What were we talking? Oh, High Evolutionary. I just liked what I didn't like what he was doing. Obviously, I don't approve. But like there is no God, so I'm doing this, like I'm making the universe a better place because of this. I liked that idea. Like in a few lines, it told me a lot about him. The kind of person that he is, why he's doing these things. And I've seen some people they've talked about how they want him to be a Kang variant. Which I do like. My friend Bobby pointed out. He's like, that's kind of racist. Like you saw like the one black guy, and you were like, oh, that was kind of Kang variant. And I was like, okay. I think I was thinking more like he wears purple, but sure, what Marvel villain doesn't really. So, but I like that. Like Kang is his own. Not Kang. That High Evolutionary is his own thing. Like it is like it is so explicitly tied to one character that in a way that say like Ronan the Accuser is not, that Ego is, but doesn't feel like he is in the same way. I like the personal, like the personal nature of the High Evolutionary. And so there's that, and certainly like what his face looked like underneath. I was like, you've been alive hundreds of years and you don't know how to fix that. That whole situation. It's like a Doctor Doom. Maybe it's like a Doctor Doom thing where you like, you could get plastic surgery. However, you need to know how gross you are underneath to reveal the ugliness on the outside. Blah blah blah. All that whole thing. But I do like just like what the movie plays with thematically about like like the way that people like react to like the High Evolutionary going, there is no God, therefore I'm doing this. And I'm like, there's a lot to unpack in there because I don't know what you are or where you come from or anything, but you're talking about God over here. And people around you, other aliens, do not react well to like that, like you saying that. And I'm like, there's just so much happening like in this little moment in here. And the film kind of plays with some religious themes where it's like, there's like like I talked about Adam, like the fall and then the reclamation. And then there's like the little Sistine Chapel moment with him and Peter. There's the Noah's Ark thing at the end, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I feel like that a sacrificial Christ offerings all over the place, like there's a few of those things kind of played through the whole movie. And like the MCU doesn't make grand statements, but like, I feel like this is as pretty close as it's going to get. Like, like as far as like, we don't have definitive answers over here or anything, but we're like trying to say like the story has a bit of a deeper meaning than just like the Guardians are doing something fun, found family. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, sure. Every movie is found family, like,
yes.
Yeah, especially Guardians. Really? So like, and this one is as well, but I don't know. It's just even like Rocket's name, like Rocket is caged. And the rocket is freedom because flight equals freedom. When you fly, you are free. And so he's quite literally needs to fly to be free. So he's named after a thing that flies. Like things like that. I just like, those are well thought out. And those are not mistakes because James Gunn is a thoughtful person that way. Like you don't always get that in the Guardians movies, but like the way he talks, even like the way he's talking about Superman, right? And so recently, like, this movie made me excited to actually see James Gunn direct Superman because I could like see the kindness of Superman in what was happening in Guardians.
Yes. I had a similar thought of like, this is actually, that was one of the things that, so I said that I give it a C, but here I am saying all these things that I liked about it. And really what it came down to for me was that I come to a Superman movie and a Guardians movie for different things, and sort of, in a certain sense, my expectations were part of the reason for it because I was expecting more of okay, I'm here to laugh, I'm here to like, it's going to be silly, it's not going to be a ton of substance, but it's going to be silly. It was a lot more substantive than I expected, but that wasn't necessarily what I came to the movie for. That aside, I come to a Superman movie for more of that substantive stuff and more of that kindness and that sort of that kind of a characterization. So I'm for the same reasons that this wasn't my favorite Guardians movie are the reasons why I am actually more excited to see a James Gunn Superman movie than I already was.
That's interesting. What you just said even tipped me to like the current kind of wave of the MCU is like you almost like go to Thor for substance, but then you saw Love and Thunder and you're like, that wasn't substantive at all, right? Or it was, but like on a really surface level.
Yes.
And so there were, like stuff was there, but just, just skimming. And then so in Guardians, you're like, what a fun romp. And you're like, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think honestly, characters can be funny, or there can still be amusement in a movie with substance.
That's right. Yes.
Or with depth. And I think that's what I don't get that from the first two movies, especially the first one. You don't get the substance, you get just the amusement. Right, you get just amusement. And the second one, it wasn't even really that amused either, which is what I think where the second one takes a hit. But this one, I was equally as amused and thoughtful at the same time, because as the characters go off and Peter's like, I gotta reconnect with my family that's still around, right? Mantis is like, I've always done what Ego wanted, what the Guardians want. What do I want? Got to do that, Drax. I'll come with you. No, that's not the point, and even like Nebula, who is like always second string to her sister, to Thanos to whatever, is now the leader, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Of nowhere, like those types of things. Even like what's his name? James Gunn's brother, the Sean Gunn.
Sean Gunn's character, yeah.
Yes. Even he's like always trying to be helpful and is never quite there, and he finally gets to be that, or Groot literally grows up and is able to be in his former glory again. Why he's a useful member of the Guardians, why they keep him around. Drax's whole story is Drax the Destroyer, but when there's nothing to destroy, what is he really? He's actually a father, right? Because all this is his grief coming out as anger. And so now he gets to do that again, in a different capacity. Gamora finds happiness in a way that she didn't know she had or was looking for or whatever. And that everybody is served. Everybody. Yes. And so Rocket again was always the leader without being the leader. So now he's finally the leader of the Guardians, Am I missing somebody? Did I hit everybody?
Mantis.
Nope, Mantis went off. Ego wanted what,
yep.
So I already did Mantis. So I think I got everybody. But so that, to me, that's what made it good, because none of those things came out of nowhere, pun intended. They were there a lot from the first movie, but by the time we reached here in this third movie, that's all set up right at the beginning. And we see that payoff right until the end. And so when the Guardians do break up, in essence, it feels like the natural conclusion of their stories.
That's very true. That's very true. In fact, they were all so well served that I was really sure at various different points that one of them was going to die. And at various different points, I was like, oh, okay, yep, this is it. Rocket's going to die. Oh, okay, yep, this is it. Drax is going to die. Okay, Peter's going to... they all lived. I really thought that someone was going to sacrifice themselves for the rest of the team. I went in sort of thinking that, and at various points throughout the movie, I got fooled because they did such a good job of servicing every character and sort of bringing them to a natural end. I was like, okay, I could see this character has reached the end of their arc, and now I could see them sacrificing themselves for the team. But no, they all got to live to see another day and live out the things that they're headed toward, they're destined for.
Totally. I did feel like some of the trailers had the Guardians walking in slow-mo and Nebula holding Peter's body and things like that. And they were like, oh, is Peter going to die? Or Rocket's on the table, is he going to die? And all of that to me felt like Wrath of Khan Spock.
Totally,
where it was just Kobayashi Maru, see he's alive still. He's the thing. We tricked you, and then I kind of expected that, in that, because it kind of does that almost, where oh, Peter, oh, that must be what people thought. Peter died because he was actually just drunk, he was passed out. But at the end, where you're like, oh no, here's the
that's it
thing, and he doesn't have his space mask, right? There's or his rockets, he is missing those key components, of his armory. So if he had them, would he have survived? So in some ways, it would have been okay if he died. But ultimately, I also think that that's a character's death. If let's say Peter died, then the Guardians dismantle. They dismantle for an entirely different reason than them going off and finding their own paths. Then they go off in grief, which is really not what this movie was about. It's about the healing of all of their individual griefs, right? It's it's the healing of Drax's, children, and the loss of Nebula's, loss of her childhood and her purpose, and Peter's family, and Rocket's innocence, and on and on and on and on like that. And so that's why I liked it. I thought it was thematically rich for an MCU movie.
For sure. You mentioned Peter's grandfather.
Yes.
I was telling my wife Marissa afterwards about how Peter's grandfather's name was Jason Quill. And Marissa said, nobody's... Okay, the least believable thing about this movie is that there's a grandpa named Jason. Nobody's grandpa is named Jason, and that movie has a raccoon man in it. Less believable than a raccoon man was the fact that there was a grandpa named Jason.
Jason Quill is in the comics is Peter's father.
Okay, that sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just like a nod to Peter's parentage.
His father, but not Ego?
Correct. His father's not Ego in the comics.
Oh, got it. Okay.
That's a pure movie thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, his father is actually the king of a planet in
okay.
In the comics. Yeah.
Okay. But
Very
not
different.
human.
Yeah, but not human. So
okay.
Yeah. Interesting tag at the end, Star-Lord will return.
Yeah.
Because I remember distinctly watching the Christmas special and then talking to you about it and going, Chris Pratt felt phoned in. Like he did not want to be. And so I was kind of expecting that performance from him in this movie too. And this movie actually reminded me that like why Chris Pratt was popular for like a good chunk of time.
Sure.
I'm like,
yes.
oh, he is very engaging.
Very charismatic.
Yeah, he's very charismatic. And I like he felt a little toned down. Like there was like actually some thoughtfulness to like I've seen some stuff, so I'm not just charming boyhood leading man anymore. There's some, the goofiness is still there, but there's weight behind it. I don't know. I like it. I like it.
Well, Peter Quill's been through, however many 5 or 6 MCU movies and 3 Jurassic World movies. So, he's totally,
He's a different guy. Yeah.
Different guy.
Any final thoughts on Guardians?
You're right. It was a fitting end in a lot of ways for each of these characters individually. It was a fitting end. It was a very good movie. It wasn't again, that difference of my personal favorites versus a very good movie. But it was a very, very good movie, just not in my, rankings or whatever. I don't know where I'd put it, but you said top 5. I wouldn't put it in top 5, but it was
I mean, there's always that
such a well-made movie for so many.
Yeah.
Subjectively, it was whatever, but it was a very, very like well-made movie and a very, very like fitting tribute and a good end to all these characters. And yeah, Star-Lord will return. I'm interested to see what that ultimately means.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Well, Frank, lovely to chat with you. Where can the people find us?
You can find us in any podcast app. Wherever you're listening to us right now, you can subscribe or you can follow or subscribe. You can leave a rating or review in whatever app you're listening to us in. You can follow us. You can email us at beerwithgeeks@gmail.com. You can find us at beerwithgeeks.com and at patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio. And those are, or on the street, just as we're walking about to say hi, whatever. All those are the places.
Those are good places. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Frank, lovely to chat with you. And so until next time, cheers.
Cheers.